You know that specific heavy kind of exhaustion you get when you're chasing something big.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't just mean physical tiredness. I mean that deep, like, spiritual fatigue.
The treadmill effect.
Yes, you feel like you're doing everything right, checking the boxes, sending the emails, all of it. But the goalpost just keeps moving.
Lots of motion, lots of sweat, but you're covering zero actual distance. It's a very specific circle of hell.
Exactly. It feels like running in mud. And that is exactly where we're starting today's deep dive. We're looking at a transcript from a pretty fascinating video that breaks down a concept called living from the end.
Right.
Now, I have to be honest, when I first saw that title in our source stack, my woo-woo alarm bells went off a little bit.
I had the exact same reaction.
It sounds like that generic fake it till you make it advice, you know?
It does. It sounds like a bumper sticker. But as we dug into this, it became really clear this isn't just positive thinking or pretending. The source is actually arguing for a structural change in how our brains process reality to achieve goals. It's not about magic. It's about efficiency.
Right, and that's the mission for today. We want to unpack the specific mechanics of this because the source frames it not as a productivity hack,
No.
but as this fundamental shift in how you exist. The objective is really to understand how shifting your internal reference point can actually speed up your external results.
And the central argument is, well, it's pretty provocative. It suggests the standard equation most of us use for achieving goals is completely backward.
How so?
We think, I need to see the result to feel the feeling. You know, show me the money, then I'll feel secure.
Show me the ring, then I'll feel loved.
Exactly. The source argues the opposite. You have to feel the feeling to see the result.
That's the definition of counterintuitive. We're rational people. We're evidence-gathering machines.
Well, they are.
So asking someone to just ignore the evidence of their current life, which might be screaming, I'm broke or I'm lonely, that feels risky. It feels almost delusional.
It feels risky because our brains are wired for the how. We crave a plan.
The step-by-step.
Right. Step one, do this. Step two, get that. But what's fascinating in this text is that it frames that obsession with the how as a psychological trap.
A trap.
Yeah, it's a symptom of fear. When you're obsessing over the mechanics of how something will happen, you're operating from a state of not knowing. You're just confirming to yourself over and over that you don't have it yet.
You're reinforcing the lack.
Precisely. You are vibrating at the frequency of I don't have this.
Yeah.
And the source argues you cannot get to I have this from a starting point of I lack this.
Okay, so let's get into the core concept, living from the end. The source defines this as focusing not on the journey,
Not on the struggle.
but on the result, as if it already exists. But here's the nuance that I think is crucial, and it's where people get tripped up. It says it isn't just about visualizing this stuff.
No, and that's a critical distinction. Most visualization techniques fail because they focus on the object of desire.
The pile of cash, the new car.
Right. This source explicitly says it's about visualizing who you are once those things are already a part of your life. It's an identity shift.
An identity shift, not an inventory check. I love that phrasing.
Exactly.
So it's less about, I see $1 million, and more about, who is the version of me that manages that kind of wealth?
Yes, if you have the money or the partner or the health, how does that version of you walk down the street? How do they hold their posture? How do they react to a rude email?
What's their baseline emotional temperature?
That's it. The source argues that the future you handles reality differently than the current you.
So you're shifting the focus from the object, the shiny thing, to the subject, to
Right.
you. The source draws this really interesting contrast between the usual way and this new way. And I have to say, reading the usual way it was a bit like looking in a mirror. It felt like a personal attack.
It's a very, very relatable cycle. The source describes it perfectly. We set a goal. We feel
Yeah.
that massive burst of dopamine
They
motivation.
agree to buy the equipment, we sign up for the app.
We start taking action. But then, reality hasn't caught up yet. You don't see immediate results.
The scale hasn't moved, the bank account looks exactly the same.
And the dopamine fades. So the doubts creep in. Is this for me? Am I doing it right? Maybe I need a different strategy. And then we quit.
Where we pause.
Right. And we start living from lack, fear, and waiting.
That line in the text really stood out, the waiting mode. I think so many of us just spend our lives in the waiting room, waiting for the email, waiting for the date.
Waiting for the check to clear. And that is the trap. When you're in waiting mode, your internal reference point is, I don't have it yet.
You're just affirming the lack of the thing.
You are. So living from the end is about moving that reference point.
Yeah.
Instead of referencing your current reality, which might be messy or broke, you make your future reality your baseline.
But I want to pause here because this is where the skeptical listener, and honestly the skeptical part of my own brain, starts asking, okay, but how? It sounds nice to say, stop waiting, start being, but what are the mechanics? The source actually lays out a very specific formula, a causal chain.
Correct. It outlines a 4-step sequence of creation. Step 1 is state. It all begins with your internal emotional state.
Okay, state first.
Then step 2 is decisions. Your state dictates the quality of your decisions. Step 3 is actions, which lead from decisions. And finally, step 4 is reality.
State, decisions, actions, reality. But usually we flip that, don't we?
Completely. Most people operate on the reverse logic. When my reality changes, step 4, then I'll feel the state. Step 1.
When I get the promotion, then I'll feel confident.
Exactly. When I lose the weight, then I'll feel worthy. The source is saying that is a broken model.
Yeah.
You were waiting for the tail to wag the dog. You have to install the state first.
Wow, that's a huge aha moment. Because if I'm waiting for reality to change to feel good, but I need to feel good to make the decisions that change reality,
You're in a loop.
I'm stuck.
You are stuck in a feedback loop of your current circumstances. You're just recycling the past. To break out, you have to mentally skip to the end.
Let your fulfilled future become your point of alignment. That's the quote.
Yes. When you do that, the decisions you make today aren't coming from a place of, I hope this works. They're coming from, I know who I am.
Let's make this concrete. Because abstract philosophy is great, but I want to know how this helps me on a Tuesday afternoon when everything's going wrong. The source gives 2 really strong examples.
Relationships and money.
Let's dive into the relationship one first. I think that's where living from lack is maybe the most painful.
It's a very potent example. So the source asks you to imagine a future where you are already happy and fulfilled in love. You're securely partnered.
Okay.
And it asks the key question. In that future, would you be living from anxiety? Would you be checking your phone every 5 seconds to see if they texted back?
No, that's the whole point. If you're happily married for 10 years, you probably don't even know where your phone is half the time.
Right, you're certainly not analyzing the punctuation in a text message.
No.
In that future, the source says you're living from calm confidence.
How?
You aren't chasing, and chasing is the key word there.
Right. When you're single and unhappy or in a complicated situation, you're often acting from a state of chasing.
You're trying to force an outcome. You're operating from fear of rejection, fear of being alone.
And if we follow the formula, state leads to decisions. If my state is fear and chasing, my decisions are going to be what?
Over-texting.
Over-texting, showing up where you know they'll be, or accepting less than you deserve.
Oof.
You might compromise your boundaries, you might come across as desperate, which, ironically, repels the very thing you want.
But if you apply living from the end, you adopt the state of the future you who was already loved.
Yes, and that version of you is secure. That version is grounded.
You know your worth. You choose instead of fear. That's a direct quote from the text. So if I wake up today and I decide, I am already that person.
And you don't send that panic text. Right. I go about my day. I focus on my own life.
And paradoxically, that behavior, which comes from the new state, is exactly what makes you attractive.
Yeah.
The source says, start living from that emotional state now, and reality will begin to match it.
You stop chasing, and the whole dynamic flips.
It does.
It's so simple, but it requires so much discipline not to let your current reality, an empty bed or a quiet phone, dictate your mood.
It's a discipline. You almost have to hallucinate the confidence until it becomes real.
Okay, let's pivot to the second example, which I think is equally powerful and maybe even more common. Finance. Money.
Right. This is where people get tripped up. They think, well, I can't fake having money in my bank account. The rent is due.
The numbers are the numbers.
And the source isn't telling you to spend money you don't have. It's talking about the mindset of wealth.
The contrast here is stress, struggle, and chaos versus calm, clarity, and abundance.
Think about it. How do you make financial decisions when you are panicked? When you're in a state of scarcity?
Oh, they're terrible decisions. You're reactive. You're looking for quick fixes.
Exactly. You might take a job you hate just for the cash flow, or you sell a stock at the bottom because you're scared it'll go lower.
You play not to lose.
It's chaos.
Yeah.
And the source has this brilliant line. Money responds to your state of being, not to stress or struggle. It argues that if you were already living at your desired financial level, you would think with strategy instead of chaos.
Strategy instead of chaos. That is a really helpful distinction. So the future me, who is wealthy, isn't just sitting around swimming in gold coins.
No.
They're calm, they're strategic, they have clarity.
Yes. And if we connect this to business or your career, this is profound. Imagine walking into a salary negotiation or a pitch meeting.
Okay.
If you approach it from a place of, I need this money or I'm dead, the other person smells that desperation. It's primal. You lose all your leverage.
You settle for less.
You do.
Yeah.
But if you approach it from the state of, I am abundant, I am secure, I don't need this specific deal to survive.
You negotiate better. You're willing to walk away.
And the person willing to walk away always has the most power. You see opportunities you would have missed if you were just hyper-focused on lack.
So, living from the end in finance means making decisions from a place of security even before the bank balance reflects it.
It means asking, how would a wealthy person handle this challenge? They probably wouldn't panic. They'd look for a solution. They'd look for leverage.
It's about borrowing the brain of your future self.
That's a great way to put it.
And speaking of that, the source material actually gives us a specific practice to do this, because usually this advice is just visualize it and you're left wondering what to do.
Right. It's not just think and grow rich.
No. This text outlines a quick practice, and it has a specific twist at the end that I really liked.
It's a great tool. It suggests taking just 10 seconds, so it doesn't have to be some hour-long meditation.
Just 10 seconds.
You close your eyes, take a few deep breaths to reset your nervous system, and you imagine yourself 1 year from today.
1 year. That's a good timeline. It's close enough to feel real, but far enough to allow for massive change.
It is. And you observe. Who have you become? Who was around you? How did your body feel? But here's the crucial part. You don't just watch the movie.
You interact with it.
Yes. The source says you must ask this future version of yourself a specific question.
What would I do today if I were already this version of myself? Or what should I do today to become you?
That question, that's what bridges the gap between the fantasy and the present moment. It turns the visualization into a consultation.
You're treating your future self as a mentor.
Exactly.
I love that idea of having a mentor who is actually just you minus the fear, because sometimes we ask other people for advice, but they don't know our situation like we do.
But future you knows exactly what you're capable of. That's the thing. Your future self, the one who's achieved the goal, has by definition overcome the obstacles you're facing right now.
So when you ask, what would I do today? The answer usually just cuts through all the noise.
It does. It might be, make that call you're dreading, or stop worrying about that petty email.
Or go for a run and clear your head.
Right. It cuts out the noise of the how. The source mentions that if you listen carefully to that inner voice and you write it down, the guidance is there.
And it claims that if you practice this daily, the shift in energy happens fast.
Often within just a few days, according to the text.
Wow.
And that makes sense, really. If you stop leaking energy into worry and doubt, and you start channeling it into aligned action, your immediate experience of life just changes. Your vibe changes.
People respond to you differently.
They do. Decisions change. Actions change. Behavior changes. And gradually, reality starts to change.
The internal shift is the domino that knocks everything else over.
And this leads to the result. The source promises.
Yeah.
The path starts revealing itself.
This is the part that addresses that stuck feeling from the beginning. We're so obsessed with finding the path. We want the map before we take the first step.
Right. When you are in the old way, you're searching for the path with a flashlight in the dark, just desperate to find the trail. You're paralyzed by the fear of making a wrong turn.
But when you live from the end,
The source implies that the path finds you. Because you're aligned with the destination, the steps become obvious. You stop forcing and you start flowing.
however, and this is where it gets really interesting, I want to make sure we cover this. The expert in the source drops a little warning at the end, a caveat.
It's not magic fairy dust.
Right, you can't just visualize a check and it falls through the ceiling fan.
No, and I'm so glad the source included this. It says inspiration alone isn't enough. You still need structure. You need the right mindset. You need clear focus.
It calls this conscious creation.
Yeah.
So we can't just sit on the couch, visualize being a billionaire, ask our future self, what would you do? And hear the answer, eat a bag of chips.
Exactly. If the answer is eat chips, that's probably not your future self talking, that's your current comfort zone talking.
That's a good point.
This requires structure. It's about taking the inspiration from the future state and grounding it into a real strategy in the present. It's an active process.
It's active alignment. You're aligning your today with your tomorrow. Looking back at all of this, the examples, the formula, it really challenges the way we're taught to live.
It does.
We're taught to be realistic. Look at the facts. Look at the data. And the source is basically saying, the data is just a record of the past. Why are you letting the past dictate your future?
That is the core philosophical shift. If you only look at your current reality to decide how to feel, you are just recreating the past over and over and over again. You're caught in a loop.
And living from the end is a tool to break the loop.
It's permission to detach your emotional well-being from your immediate circumstances.
Which is incredibly liberating. I mean, even if the goal takes time to manifest, living from calm confidence is just a much nicer way to spend your Tuesday than living in stress and lack.
Absolutely. The quality of your life is the quality of your emotional states. If you spend the whole journey in misery, hoping for a happy ending, you've wasted the journey.
But if you bring the happiness of the ending into the journey,
you win twice. You feel good now, and you get the result later.
Win twice. I really like that. So to recap the mission here, we started with that feeling of being stuck, that friction of trying hard but getting nowhere.
And living from the end is the proposed solution. We move from a state of waiting and lack to a state of fulfillment and alignment.
We reverse the flow. So state drives decisions, which drive actions, which create reality.
We apply this to relationships by swapping anxiety for knowing our worth, and to money by swapping chaos for strategy.
And we use the time machine exercise to consult our future self as a mentor.
And remember, you can apply this to anything: health, purpose, career. Anywhere you feel that friction, check your state. Are you living from the wish fulfilled or the lack of it?
It's a powerful question. And as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a thought that really stuck with me from this. We spend so much time looking for signs.
We want the universe to prove it to us.
Show me a sign that it's working. Show me a sign the money is coming.
But the logic of this source suggests that the very act of looking for a sign is a confirmation that you don't believe you have it.
Exactly. If you already had the money, you wouldn't be checking the mail for a sign of it. If you were happily married, you wouldn't be looking for signs that you're lovable.
You would just be those things.
So here's the provocative thought to mull over. What happens if you treat your current reality, the bills, the single status, the confusion, as old news, just the echo of past choices?
And you treat your future reality, the one in your imagination, as the actual truth.
If you make that switch, you stop waiting for permission to be the person you want to be.
You just become them.
Yeah.
And the world has no choice but to adjust.
A massive shift in perspective. Thank you for walking us through this one. It's definitely one to experiment with.
My pleasure. It's a fascinating concept.
And to everyone listening, try the 10-second exercise. Ask your future self what to do next. You might be surprised by the answer. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.